Do you find it hard to teach people how to fight fear who don't have a faith that you share?
That's a great question. People don't generally change for non-painful reasons.
And there's a phrase, be kind to yourself, which I talked to an awesome friend the other day. So I'm trying to be kinder to myself. I said, bro, if there's one thing I missed the boat on that, and I will never miss it again. But what is the impact of that phrase on you, and what have you seen it do for other people? So
being kind to yourself is a form of actual humility, not pride or a pass. For me, it was about accepting my own human limitations, because I found a lot of this in scripture. It made me smaller and it made God bigger.
For a guy who hates to plan, and I hate putting a goal up there in case I don't get it, I got a great convenient out. Oh, y'all got goals? I got a better one. Ephesians 3:20. God is able, so you can take your goals and you can take your vision statement and you can take your cute little ideas, because God is going to do more. And I'm desperately afraid of failing. The picture of Jesus with lepers, I think leprosy represents the thing that you would never want to be around. There's just a lot of evidence that those are the things that Jesus ran towards.
Yeah.
And that always gets me to this day.
I love that example. I've never thought about it that way, but fear is everything.
Lights on. Laura Lentz, love you.
Hello.
Dr. Anita Phillips.
Hey, you guys.
Yes.
It is such a pleasure and an honor to have you. We're both battling Tulsa allergies,
Well, something to
which is another common bond. We love you so much, and it's an absolute joy to have you on this pod.
Excited to be here.
How do you feel?
This is crazy. I think it's such a manifestation of how God connects people, because I feel like I've known y'all forever, and we've never even, like, the three of us sat down and had a conversation. And so, but I've learned to trust that over time. I've learned to trust God with that space. So I'm just excited to be here in person with you guys in the flesh.
First time I heard of you, I'm gonna for people who are yet to be familiar with you, which isn't a lot of people left.
Right?
New York Times bestseller. It was at the height of just a really unruly lack of rest time in our culture. And I was searching for voices that made sense to me. And I don't know how I found you, but when I did, I remember grabbing you. You actually, Laura, might have told me about her, about Anita. But we just fell in love with your spirit and who you are, and we were able to get a really powerful combo to our church at that time. And since then, it has been a real joy to watch you just crush it. I mean, I was looking at some of your stats and some of who you are, and even your, for those who don't know, you have a degree from the University of Maryland. You're a terrapin. I didn't know that.
Well, different campus, but
Regent University.
I love Maryland.
And then
Regent
you
University.
did your postdoctorate at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg.
Yeah. School of Public Health.
You have worked extraordinarily hard to put yourself in a position to have the impact you've had, including your book, The Garden Within. New York Times smash. Everybody loves it. What was that about? Like,
Including Oprah.
Oh, Oprah's it.
She's so awesome.
But to
I love
see you in
seeing
those
that.
spaces doesn't shock me at all, because I've been around a while, and to see somebody who can minister and cover mental health stuff, and then intertwine it in a way where it helps people, very hard to do. You are an expert. Unbelievable. When people hear you do what you do, one of the pieces of feedback will never be confusion.
Amen.
People don't have to agree; they can disagree. But when you preach, or when you teach, or when you write, it's like some things that have been complicated just don't seem so complicated. So what was the journey to that book like?
Wow, so many converging factors.
Word.
Definitely. I mean, I won't even say starting with my family, like my nuclear family, but starting with the heritage and the legacy of my family. My dad is the descendant of enslaved Americans and Black Americans, and my mom is actually Native, indigenous blood. And there's something really beautiful about the spiritual traditions of both groups when it comes to kind of that traditional African spirituality, where there's the expectation that there is order and knowledge in the invisible realm. that is our primary focus, that there's knowledge and power to be gleaned from it, not just rules for behavior,
Yeah.
but that there's power and information, and that we go there first. That's a very essential aspect of African spirituality. So when African spirituality puts on Christ, the shape of how we do faith is very much about, oh, there's an answer over there. And then combine that with the indigenous emphasis on creation, on plants, the earth, the soil itself, that the wind, everything in creation. I mean, the reference most common to God is creator in indigenous spaces. And so even before I was Anita, born into this family in 1973, those legacies were merging around me. So I know that sounds a little up in the sky, but that's where I live.
No, you use a term I haven't heard. So when you say African spirituality, can you say more about that?
Yeah.
Like, what are the hallmarks? What is the flavor of that?
So when I speak of that, and of course Africa is a massive continent, but I'm leaning more towards the Western and Sub-Saharan African spaces where most of the people who were taken from the African continent and enslaved here would have come from. And spirituality is actually an aspect of worldview. It's a part of our ethnic heritage. It's not about religion. It's about the things that we believe. A now deceased musician and cultural anthropologist named Fela Suwande helped me learn this, that the God-man-nature relationship is embedded in each ethnic worldview. What is the relationship between the gods, humanity, and nature? And we find that in mythology. We find it in the stories that they tell, and in the creation accounts of groups, in their artwork, in their music, everywhere. What is the relationship between the gods, humanity, and nature? And it's really kind of self-explanatory if you think about it. If you think about what we know about Native culture in America, and we say, what's their relationship with creation? What's the relationship with between the British and creation?
Right.
We know that there's a difference immediately, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so how we relate to the world, whether it's something that we're a part of creation or we own it and control it, those are two very different relationships. If the primary relationship with the gods is to be approved and to get riches, or to get picked and have a wonderful afterlife, very Norse. If anybody's watched any of the movies where we know about Norse culture, right? The gods are like sit high and kind of look low. They choose who lives or dies in battle.
Very callous,
There's a lot
very
of
harsh.
themes about war and then you have other groups who their stories about God and creation are around relationship. The gods are closer to them. They help people or protect people rather than choose who wins a war. These stories that live in our groups before we know Christ persist. And that's why a traditional African-American church on a Sunday morning is such a different experience than like a traditional white Southern Baptist church versus like a Korean-American church or a Nigerian-American church. When we walk in, we expect those worship experiences to be different.
Right.
But why are they different? And you'll say, well, the culture. Yes, we're looking at a value system that says, I bring to God the thing that was most valuable to us. In some cultures, that's silence. Silence is a show of respect, and so they may have a worship experience that's very quiet and still. But in most African spaces, movement and sound are our greatest gifts.
Yeah.
So whether we are having an impromptu breakdancing competition, a freestyling rap competition,
or a praise break.
Or a praise break.
At TC, we have grown to try to set up anytime we can because
At any
it's
moment.
the greatest part of any service ever.
Right. So suddenly, and how do we show God that? We move.
Yeah.
And so different groups bring different things that are their great value, and they offer them to God.
So
and we see that on a Sunday morning.
When I hear you say that, what I hear is the beauty of elements of different tribes.
Yes.
What I loathe in our culture right now is the laziest, lowest common denominator of judgment is to look at another tribe and immediately put yourself in a position of less than or more than.
Yes.
When really it might behoove people to, rather than judge a Korean American church, go, no, you're not less this. Like, why do you do what you do?
Yes.
That's a black church over there. Why do they do what they do?
Right.
Rather than make your tribe be the one that has it all right, which you see all over right now. Like we have tribal things going on. I like the other aspect of a tribe, which is to party with another tribe.
Yeah.
And then your tribe got better.
Absolutely.
So what I hear you saying
norm.
is that there's pockets. How did you land on Jesus. Because why I'm so excited about watching you influence culture is because we need more people, men and women like you, that are willing to have some conversations. Like, so you're not digging and asking questions so that other people can stop talking and then you can give them the truth.
Right.
You just love to hear about people.
I
And
do.
so, like, for me, I don't get scared when I sit down with someone. They're like, I love astrology. I'm like, tell me why. Tell me more. Or I'm a Buddhist. It's like, I know I'm a Jesus guy. You probably know that. I know that. But I want to know about you. How did you, with all that depth of spiritual knowledge, how did you land on Jesus?
Well, fortunately,
Hey everybody, I hope you are enjoying the episode with Dr. Anita Phillips. My name is Hector Guerrero. I get to work with Carl and produce this amazing show, and this conversation is powerful. And if you haven't already, go download and subscribe to the B-Side app. That's where you'll get to avoid all of these ads you're getting on YouTube, and you just get to have the full uncut episode just for you. And we also have exclusive content, live events that are coming out the door, and lots of other good things, and especially with the community that we are building. So go download and subscribe to the app today. We love you. We are so grateful that you're walking with us in this journey, and we'll see you soon. Peace.
I've known Jesus all my life because I'm a pastor's kid, pastor's grandkid, so I'm born into the space. My mom's a preacher. I come from a long line of women preachers. So I came into it, but when Jesus became mine, I was 19. It really became mine, you know, I would say my grown-up decision to follow Jesus. He met me somewhere and worked his way into my broken heart. And that experience is just life-changing. So I know this is real for me. This is real.
So you write this book,
Yeah.
Garden Within, and it's out. What was like the impetus? Like, what if the people will run and get this if they haven't, and you should. If you watch this podcast and you care about your soul, I think this book is a can't miss. I don't talk about books a lot here unless I've read them and I love them. And you know what, like, when you got it out, what was the message you were excited about people getting? You know they're going to get what they get, but like when you were like, it's done, what was the, because I know when I wrote a book and I was like, I want people to get that.
Yeah.
And with other stuff is great, but what was that for you?
I wanted people to see how incredibly, beautifully crafted we are by God. And that the God who created you is amazing, loves you, and wants you to be well. I wanted people to realize I've been wrestling with these emotions of mine, and I didn't need to. This is actually a beautiful part of me. The thing I've been trying to change, control, hold back the most is actually the most beautiful part of me. Wow. And that I was created by a creator who was incredibly intentional about that and adores me. I wanted people to feel seen and loved.
And uniquely created.
Yeah.
Which is like
by this creator.
It's mind-blowing if you have told yourself that you just happened.
Oh,
you just showed up.
No way. I mean, every single thing in this book, and it has strengthened my faith. Like the process of this revelation was faith strengthening for me. That to be able to see the patterns of the creator in scripture, and then in biology, and then in botany. I go, everything in that book is happening at the intersection of Bible, biology, and botany. Everything that I put in there can be shown, proven in 3 different areas that are completely seemingly unrelated. And so I wanted people to see that, like, all the things in their life actually do fit together, that your spirituality can actually be a pragmatic, tangible part of how your wellness evolves. It's not something over there, but like I'm actually getting information from the spirit realm through scripture, and then from the creator through how he made a plant and how he made you. Like, this is the use of spiritual information in a way that's just as sturdy as numbers or data or observation. That spirituality can also be a solid source of usable data for your everyday life. That's crazy town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously. So much.
It's powerful, and it's a tough argument, you know, let me back up and say that what I love about you as well is that I hope there's a fresh rush of intellectually strong Christians.
Yes.
I feel like what I have seen.
That's my thing.
So you can look to the left with politics. It's the same thing. So you got people who don't know what they believe, but they just pick the camp. So they know one argument. And that's it. They don't even care about the rest. It's I call it like an epidemic of stupid. And then you bring that into the church, and you've got people who...
I wouldn't choose that language, but go ahead.
It could be said it's an epidemic. And what I mean by that is, like, we have an opportunity as believers, as people who really want to, you know, embody what it means to be a follower of Jesus, to actually go a little bit deeper. And what you're doing is bringing parts together that people have just been like, maybe that's for the scientist, or maybe that's for the mystic. And you're like, no, this is us. And it's like, it makes your faith so much stronger.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about what you do.
It's definitely done that for me. I mean, when I first saw a picture of a neuron next to a plant and realized they looked the same, and that's been now 2006 or something when I first saw that, blew my mind, but also deepened my faith in a way that's never been changed. I already had faith, but it was just like, you have faith in what you can't see, but I can see this. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing, is like, yes, God is invisible, but there are so many visible realities. And so to see those things side by side, man, it just took me back to saying, okay, I know that this had to be God. This is not a coincidence. And then the more I studied scripture and the science, the more clear it became that this is not a coincidence. And if this is God on purpose and he left this clear track, then what if we keep following this track?
Right.
And with the expectation that I'm going to know God better at the end of this. And since God created me, if I understand God better, I'm going to understand myself better. Because the Bible says that we have lost knowledge in Romans chapter 1 because we have valued the creature more than the creator. And as Christians, we've often done that. We ask questions like, how is man made in the image of God? That's a question about us. Remember in like grade school when you could you'd have to do an example where they'd give you a sentence and they'd say, circle the subject of this sentence. What's the subject? So when I say, how is man made in the image of God? The subject of that question is man. God showed me in that moment of neuron, plant, him, all the things, that the question should be, how at creation was God reflected in the image of man? Now God is the subject of the sentence. That is a very big change. Huge. What about God was reflected in created humanity? Now my question is, what about God? And so then I am no longer at risk of prioritizing the creature over the creator. If I seek the creator, the creature is clarified by default.
Wow.
And so we can find ourselves, but only to the extent that we find God and realize what about him we were supposed to reflect before the fall.
Right.
That takes too much work, doctor. Let me ask you this, because I love being on a journey of self-work. It's like the way I have phrased it is my first job, like I'm employed by my best self. And I show up to work every day, and there's unlimited revenue that awaits me. Revenue like peace and joy and love. Like, that's my job. The other stuff I do is cool, but my main job is to keep working on this. And it's like a new thing for even both of us. I think we have just really poured into, like, let's not take this chance we have now to really go in, because we spend a lot of our life looking out. But do you think there's a common phrase, accept yourself, accept yourself. And everything that's great gets hijacked by the close version to it that's not real. So what I've heard is people say things like, I just got to accept myself. I feel like there's a risk that people are accepting the worst version of themselves because they don't know how to get out of it. So rather than fight it, like they used to fight it, and now they're like, no, this is just who I am. I like to phrase it like I am accepting the healing version of myself, because it means I'm looking forward. Do you find that people have accepted symptoms, ailments, character traits, stuff that they can change, and they just got into a place where they're like, I accept this? Do you see that, where people are just accepting a version of themselves after there comes a point? I mean, when you're young, I think it's easier to change, but when you get to be in this adult life, I've just met a lot of people who are like, this is just how I've been, and it's how I am. And maybe the light has come on for some people where they're like, I can change.
There's quite a few things there. One, no, it's not how I have experienced people or perceived people, that they're like, I just accept this raggedy thing about myself and I don't care. I don't believe that. I think that we do the things that are functional. And people don't generally change for non-painful reasons. There's very few people, and every now and then it happens. I actually had someone recently took on a new client, and after meeting for like an hour, I was just like, so what is it that you need, your change? And this person genuinely was like, no, I think I'm doing pretty well, but my old therapist retired, and I want to make sure I have someone on my team to just keep. I was like, do you know how rare it is for someone to come in and just say, hey, I'm just hoping to continue to improve? I'm like, what? Because most people only really change because some level of pain has become intolerable, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, or physically. They are in a position, or relationally, things have gotten intolerable. And so now we need to change. So I relate to that. I think that's true for all of us, right? And so, like, I mean, hey, I'm one of those women that has been on the perpetual diet for 20 years, right? And you like to say, oh, it's just because it's not about the weight. I just really want to be healthy. It's just like, yeah, whatever. It's
definitely about the genes.
I really want to be a size 8 is what I really want.
Just
and
be honest.
Also, the health has been nice. But then, so I think whatever pains us is what usually inspires change. And so if something's not really causing a big problem, I think maybe in that way we accept. In that it's not causing a big problem, and we shrug along because we think that wellness is pain freedom. As long as I'm not in some kind of pain, I must be well. And that's not what wellness actually is. So we roam around on these healing journeys, and we don't even know where they're going or when they're over. We judge them based on, am I still in a lot of pain or not? Once we're out of pain, we tend to settle back into a rut. And so I don't feel like people just do that. But I do want people to accept worthiness at every stage, because God loves us at every stage. And so even though I still have the healing to do, or I'm messy in this area or whatever, I feel like the opportunity to lean into the unconditional love of God in a condition that I'm not proud of in some area is so incredibly good. If he only loved us once we were good enough, what is this?
When
While
would that
you were
be?
yet sinners,
When would that be?
he died. I do want to stop along the way on my healing and development journey to feel his love surrounding me in the area that I'm the most ashamed of, because that's where the love is the best. That's the love is the best, that I've realized, man. And if I am acceptable to him in these moments, I'm acceptable to myself, that helps me to grow. Because I would say you can't really hate yourself better. We can't hate ourselves better. We can be so mad at ourselves. That just puts us in a spiral, a shame spiral. And so I do want people to accept themselves. Not saying that this is your favorite version of you, but that God thought enough of you to die already for you. You know, love that old Anthony Brown group therapy worship song. You thought I was to die for? Oh.
Wow, that's special.
So I'm always looking for that place, because love is so transformative for me.
If you can't hate yourself better, you can, maybe you can love yourself while you heal. And there's a phrase, be kind to yourself, which I talked to an awesome friend the other day. So I'm trying to be kinder to myself. I said, bro, if there's one thing I missed the boat on that, and I will never miss it again. But what is the impact of that phrase on you, and what have you seen it do for other people? So if someone's watching and that is a foreign concept, if that's you, I relate to it. I mean, the thought,
be kind to yourself?
Like, because there's so many people who are like, I can't be kind to myself. I've got to change, and I got this, and I got that. And what is the impact of being kind to yourself? How important is it in your mental wellness journey?
It's been hugely important for me, and it was something I had to embrace. Being kind to yourself is a form of actual humility, not pride or a pass. For me, it was about accepting my own human limitations. So I'm a personality theorist, among many other things. And when I first started studying personality back in 2004, the thing that shocked me the most was that it's a real measurable thing. So I know lots of people explore this. They know which of the 9 Enneagram types they are, which of the 16 personality types they are. And it's important because I think there's huge information there. Right. But people find out their personality type, and a lot of people get excited. They're like, oh, this is so cool. This is totally me. And it's like, I'm an 8 or I'm an ITP. And it's like, great. But then when I first found that out and I saw myself described on a paper test, I was devastated.
What did you find out?
I found out that I'm not special. I found out that I am that predictable. That of all the people on the planet, we can be divided into 9 groups, 16 groups. Our behavior can be predicted, everyone's like, oh, this is so cool. I was like, this is devastating information. I thought I was making decisions.
Yes.
I thought I was figuring out stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just running the program that was installed at birth. It was devastating to me.
Wow.
Because I took a lot of pride in the capacity of my mind.
Right.
And I thought I was figuring out some things, and I had done better than my sister on drugs, and I had done better than many people. And it was like, nope, just running the program installed at birth, baby. You're not really that special. And so for me, once I got through the shock of that, I was like, this is wild. So sin, the fall, has us in like a limited condition. My brokenness and my everyday function is not that special. And so the real work is for me to become the best version of the thing I was already born as,
Given, yeah.
and then try to expand beyond those limitations.
Right.
But once I realized how much less power I had, then yeah, sure, I'm failing. I'm not that powerful, actually.
Wow.
I am much more prone to make a decision based on my personality.
Yeah.
I am unaware of my emotions, and they're actually driving the car, and they're driving everybody's car, by the way. Everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's how we're made. So for me to have just accepted like the limitations of who I was, and then also realizing, because I found a lot of this in scripture, it made me smaller and it made God bigger.
Key.
And that part was like, hey, Anita, you working with what you got, babe. It's okay. Like, God knew your limitations, and he waited for you, and he loves you, and so you're okay. You're okay. You're worth it to him.
People
And so,
who accept
yeah.
themselves for who they are and what God's doing are very dangerous people to be around in the best way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I know, we talked about this before. I think this is one of the first stages where I've accepted myself. Very hard for you to not accept me, meaning very hard for it to impact me because I accept me.
Yeah.
So that's a big change because I think a lot of people are waiting for that. Like they're waiting to be accepted, and that need vanishes
Yeah.
if you accept yourself.
Yeah. But you can also still be blessed and loved by people.
And then it just is
It's
a
just
blessing.
bonus.
It's
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
I want you to like me. I
Yes.
do. If you don't, I will survive. If you do, I'm going to appreciate it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm good.
I'm
that's
good.
That's a powerful place
Yeah.
to be.
And you have your chosen mirrors. Hey, if my
Yes.
reflection starts looking off, if you look in Laura mirror and stuff starts looking off, that's the thing. You know,
in
not
trouble.
every mirror down the street, but there's mirrors that we have where like how I see myself reflected in my daughter's eyes. If I don't like that look, I'm gonna check on that. I have close friends. I have 3 very close girlfriends who like, listen, if they're looking at me, I'm like, what was that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna move for them, but not every single person
Yeah.
should move me. But there are set mirrors because we do have to make sure that we are accountable and humble enough to be addressed. Like, hey, something's looking off right there. Hey, I see a pattern. You know, my friends can let me know, this is your pattern. I'm like, what? You saw a pattern I didn't see? So there's a humility that there has to be some mirrors that we always are willing to see ourselves in and make adjustments as necessary. But then some mirrors are not for us. Some are funhouse mirrors. Those are not
Yes.
for us. They are distorting me. So I am careful about that. But yeah.
Yesterday, you were talking about trust, and I get this asked of me all the time. How did I learn to trust him and all of that? You said something interesting that I hadn't really thought about, which is that fear is actually the anchor in trust. Or
Yes,
can you
especially in
explain
human
that?
relationships.
Yeah, in human relationships. Like I'm not
Good
actually...
question.
Like I don't have to build trust with him. I actually have to like explain that I'm fearful
Yeah.
Yes.
of you.
Trust is a
hurting me
fear
and-
It's not
concept.
the absence of fear. Like
No.
Yeah, right.
trust doesn't mean I don't fear anything.
Yeah, no, but it is about fear in relationships,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So the Bible tells us to trust God. It says put no confidence in man, but that doesn't mean to distrust. It's just trust is not a construct that was built for human relationships. That's something between us and God, right?
Wow.
Because trust does speak of the character and the makeup of the object. So God is inherently trustworthy. We were told to no confidence in man, but to love each other,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so what's the opposite of love? Fear. When we talk about trust in human relationships, we're really negotiating a fear contract. To say, can I trust you, is to say, do I need to be afraid of you? Can I trust you not to do what I'm scared you might do? Can I trust you not to hurt me in the way that scares me the most? And so when someone hurts us, then I no longer feel safe. The bigger answer is to someone who say, how do you feel? I'm still afraid of you.
Right.
I'm still afraid of you. And that's so much more honest. It's so much more real.
Beautiful.
Trust
Well
then
said.
carries kind of this like anger almost thing. Like,
Right.
I give you my trust. I take my
Take it
trust.
back.
Do
Yeah.
you deserve my trust? But it's so much more honest and vulnerable to just say, yeah, I'm still afraid of you.
I'm scared.
I'm still scared. And not only is it more honest and vulnerable, one, it gives us a place in the word to go. Because when we use the trust concept, whether I give it or don't give it, then we start abusing the forgiveness concept.
Right. Beautiful.
You must forgive. And if you forgave them, then you would return your trust
Return
to
the
them.
trust, right.
And
True.
that's so emotionally unfair and dishonest and gaslighting with the best intentions of applying scripture about forgiveness.
Wow.
But we forgive and can still be afraid. If I get my leg broken by someone and I forgive them for breaking it, but it still has to heal. It still hurts. I still might have a limp for a while.
Right.
That doesn't negate that process. And so we make it seem like because I forgave, I'm no longer going to be in any kind of pain. And that if unforgiveness and pain are indicators of each other. Not true. Now, forgiveness-wise, and forgiveness has never been my strong suit, so I've had to work on it. So I know this journey really well. If I catch myself saying, I forgive you, and then I'm fantasizing about that car hitting you, that I can't allow myself to do. Now I'm slipping back into unforgiveness because I want to take some kind of retribution. I
Yeah.
want something.
So what do you do in a situation
In
like
that situation, I say, Anita, that's a no for you. I remind myself immediately the things that God has forgiven me for.
That's
Because
cool.
I don't want scripture to come back to get me where God forgave me and then I'm going to go and throw someone in jail over the debt that they owe me
And
after God has forgiven my
you're
debt.
out on bail.
Right, exactly. And I'm out on bail. So
Yeah.
I remind myself of the things that God has forgiven me for, the stuff that He gave me the grace to be forgiven for in private.
Yeah. Wow.
How about that? I've been forgiven for a lot of things in private, and I want
Yes.
to keep them that way so
Right.
that when I'm at the judgment day, they don't play that on the screen. This is that let the blood cover that thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so I remind myself of the most shameful things, the scariest things, the meanest things that God's forgiven me for, and it's like, you don't get to do that. And so I let myself push that away and ask God to continue to work forgiveness in me. And then I say, what pain brought it back? Was I sore today? Did I have a cramp today? Did I have something? Did I encounter someone, a story, a thing, a memory that brought back the pain? And now let me just deal with healing the pain still. So that's my journey for forgiveness. However, when it comes to this fear thing, when we talk fear language instead of trust language, it gives us kind of a dual responsibility. I want to look at the person who I may be fearing and recognize over time, I can watch for patterns that say this person is less scary.
Right.
And also, fear is mine to deal with as well.
Right.
Because I can give fear to God. Because fear distorts my hearing and my seeing. So it will be harder for me to judge whether or not that person is safe through the lens and the sound of fear. So I also need my fear to be replaced with love.
Wow.
Because love sees very clearly. Love may clear up so much that I say, this relationship can't work and I actually need a boundary.
Yeah.
Or it may say, I can see that you're safe.
Yeah.
Or it can say that you're not safe, but I'm sturdy enough in the love of God that you doing something won't actually destroy me.
Wow. She had the double-edged
That is
sword
wild.
of fear of. I broke her trust, and then she had to retrust God because I was attached to her.
Oh,
relationship with
listen,
God.
you said something earlier about the voice. Like, if we could just circle back to that. How women are stripped and robbed of voice, of identity, of agency, because we are meshed in this Christian world, Western Christian world
Yes.
especially. We get forced into this husband mesh. If it can't be his calling if it's not also your calling. I
Right.
beg to differ.
Yes.
I beg to differ.
Right, right.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that used to drive me crazy.
Well, that's one of
Yeah.
those things that sounds like Bible, and then you go, "That's
It
absolutely
is
not Bible at all."
not, though.
Yeah.
It's
It's
it'll
not.
preach
It's
good, but it's
not.
not true.
And so, yes, this
Yeah.
requirement that I just fade into.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And we lose so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, without even realizing that it's happening.
Yeah.
So, like, kudos to you for getting a hold of it, but, like, it happens to a lot of women
Mm-hmm.
in the image of what it's supposed to be, you know? And, I mean, I think it shows up different ways in different cultures, but it does show up.
Yeah.
universally. And
I'm
so,
processing that in real time, Anita, just because I'm realizing, we build trust, but you become less afraid.
yes, you become
100%.
less afraid of the thing in the first place.
It's not so
It's
much,
been so
I trust
hard
you,
to-
it's like, I'm less afraid.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's been hard to explain that to people, but that makes so much more sense to me.
Yes.
Because I have my own journey and I have my relationship with God. And so being able to be less fearful of him
Yes.
makes so much sense to me. So people are like, how did you get your trust back with him? And I'm like, it's so hard to explain, but it is exactly that. Like you're letting that fear go and you're giving that to God.
Right. Because you're less afraid.
Yeah.
You are less afraid.
I am less afraid.
Period.
Yes.
Not less afraid of him even.
Right.
Just less afraid.
Yeah.
That if
And
someone...
now I know I can do things on my own if I needed.
Yeah.
If I
There you
needed
go.
to, I can. But back then, it's like, I need this person. This person's hurt me, but they're my lifeline. They're my source. And so many women get stuck in that.
Well, that's why we
they
found
stay right there.
a lot
Yeah.
of women stay, love, because we found that to be
100%.
really true.
Yeah.
It's not because they don't want to leave. It's like they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And what
So
it
it's
says
like-
about you.
Yes.
Right? What does this say about me? If this person has betrayed me, then does that say that everything I did was unworthy? Does it
Right.
say that I'm blind? Does it say that I am not a good person? Like, what does it say about me? What is rejection? And that it can be in marriage. It can be anywhere. It can be in dating. Like, people get tired of dating. It's like, because if the person doesn't like me back, they're rejecting me.
Yeah.
And that says that I'm unlovable. That says, and when you get past that, like, I'm not afraid to lose you.
Wow. That's so good.
I'm not afraid that this may go wrong. I'm not afraid to fail at a new business venture, like whatever. Like, fear is the ultimate killer. Of everything. And so if
So
this
true.
person fails me, first of all, they're not even failing me.
Yeah.
Right.
Preach.
They're failing themselves.
Selves.
They're in pain. And I mean, I felt like this was one of the things I had to kind of learn as a pastor, or some years as a pastor, was like, if someone goes off the rails or there's something collapses in their life, then to feel like, man, how did I fail them? How did I miss it? I think it's a legitimate question to ask, because I want to be better at what I do. But at the same time, everything doesn't have to first be processed in terms of me.
Right.
There is a selfishness
That's good. What did I do? Yeah.
to fear, because pain makes us self-focused. And I hope I'm saying this clearly, but it's just like,
Very.
You
if
are.
this person collapses, is it really about me in this moment? Or am
Right.
I solid enough to say, I'm so sorry that you're going through this? Man, I've been, as a therapist, I could be someone's counselor for like 2 years, and let's say they've stayed off drugs that whole time, and then they relapse, and my first thought is, man, I missed it as a therapist. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
There's a sliver
Right.
of there's a sliver of beauty, a
Yeah.
sliver of kindness, but really, it's like, how did that become about you so quickly?
Right, so
and we
fast.
convince ourselves that it's almost like a heroic, like, what did I do to fail?
Yeah, or I'm scared because their success is defining me, and that's
Well, if your failure is about you, then their win was too,
right.
and that's a tricky place to
It's
be.
a tricky place to be. That's why the Bible says that one plants, one
Another
waters, but God
He's the one that
gives
brings
the
the
increase,
increase.
right? So as a minister, as a therapist, as a parent, as a friend, I may have lots of chances to plant and water.
Wow.
And sometimes I don't see the increase. But every now and then, I'm present for the increase. I have to be careful to realize I just happen to be the last waterer before God's increase showed up in this
Right.
person's life. And he let me
Wow.
witness the increase just to encourage me that increase does happen.
Yeah.
Because there were other people that I watered early on, and I didn't get to
You didn't
be
see
present
it,
for the
yeah.
Right, right,
increase.
right,
So I
right.
just had to have faith. But if I take credit for the increase, I must take credit for the decrease. If I take credit for the success, I have to take credit for the failure. God gives the increase. I am just planting and watering.
Right, which makes us start to destroy terms. Like, people used to always say, I was a great soul winner. And I'd always, I got you, I know what you mean, but I didn't win, I never won a soul in my life. I'm very gifted at that one moment in an evangelical service where we give an invitation, and my gifts peak right there with an ability to speak in a way that makes sense in that moment. I didn't do a thing,
Right.
nothing. So we often do that. A person's he's a soul winner. This person's a that. It's
Yeah.
like, there's so much that goes on. And what it does, it relieves you of undue weird pressure that you never should have had. Because if you're a soul winner, then that means if you're a this, if
You're
you're
in charge
that,
of the whole thing.
it's such a more peaceful place to realize I have a part to play.
Yeah.
A part.
Yes, a part.
A part.
And walking that fine line of taking responsibility for the part and even enjoying the opportunities to play
Yeah,
the part.
right.
But like Moses had a staff. He said, what do you have in your hand? Moses had a staff in his hand. Moses touched the water.
Yeah.
But the Bible doesn't say, and Moses parted the Red Sea.
Mm.
It says God did.
Yeah.
And we all give credit to God, right?
And Moses is a hero. It's
And
like,
Moses is still a hero.
there is
but,
a hero
you know,
in that story,
yeah.
but it's not really that guy.
Listen, but I mean, you know what? I
did
give him
his
credit.
part.
He
Word.
was standing at the edge of that water with all these crazy people behind him.
Which
That's
I would
a
not have.
high-pressure
Right.
situation. I don't want
I'm
that.
out. I'm already out.
I don't want that.
Yeah,
But, you know, he did touch it. He had something in his hand. You had a gift. You have gifts. We all
Sure.
have gifts. And then God does the thing.
Yeah. I mean, some of the stuff that you have written has deeply impacted my life. And I got to make those choices with the material you've provided. But you got to provide the material. So it's a
Right.
beautiful, the way it should be set up is this beautiful thing where everyone has their own agency.
Yeah.
But we have a culture that's like guru, chief, pastor. There's like this hierarchy of people who are more important than others. When you really look back from a healthy
Yeah.
angle, you're like, nah, everybody has a part.
Yeah, that's always my effort with myself is to always just be, and it's not hard anymore. It's not hard, but to just always be just one of the crowd.
One of the crew.
Just one of the crowd. You know, when people tell me the stories that I hear back from the book, like I'm just astounded by it. It never gets old. I'm like,
Oh,
wow,
bet.
it actually affected
Same.
someone.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And when people say I was crying on page 4, I say, yeah, because I was crying on page 4.
Right.
Tears were hitting my laptop.
Yeah.
I'm typing.
Yeah.
Recovering from a surgery, going through a divorce, worried about my kids, and saying that I want people to be willing to sit in their emotional pain, to recognize it doesn't mean a failure, that they're still who God called them to be, and also they can feel this, and also they can give birth to things. And so first, God always has a you first energy with me. So me first.
Same.
So I'm doing
Yeah.
the typing, I'm doing the
There you
things,
go.
We
right?
might serve the same God.
Listen, he got a you first thing with me. We have
Yeah.
a you first contract. And so sometimes I get a new revelation. I'm like, stop, sir. Because I know.
Yes.
Did I ask for anything new? I don't think I did. You
What,
know,
what about them?
Because I'm going to have to live this out first.
Right.
What about them is my
So
favorite unhealthy thought. What about them, Lord?
Never that.
I'm over here working.
Right.
You'll get a kick out of this. One of my therapists, Alex, she's brilliant. And she really, I mean, she's no fun to be around. And she's one of the best. And she's like, your job for the next year is to be in the middle of the pack. And everything in you is going to rage against that. I was like, I already hate the sentence. Like, I was born to lead the pack. I am not a middle of the pack guy. She says, yeah, that's your issue. That's actually not true. And so I made an intentional decision to be middle of the pack. And I was like, this is actually awesome. It doesn't make me less of a leader, but it makes me be in a position where I understand that there's so many valuable voices, so many valuable people have a part to play. But if you are always like, there's that many podcasts of millions where guys are like, we're going to talk about the middle of the pack. It's the alpha guys with the,
Right.
with the cursing and the
Right.
yelling and it's just all the stuff like alpha lead. Cool, bro. Got you. And there's a beautiful place of acceptance as a real alpha male where you realize I don't even need to use that moniker. Like if you're really doing your job as a man, people are not going to be able to miss you. To force your way to the front of a pack to prove something. It's like, you know, we've got guys in this room filming, giggling because they know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, bro, we get it. You're an alpha. You know how I know? Because you told me. Right. The one behind you is the one I'm like, he didn't say a word.
Yeah.
So I think it helped me with this because anytime something good happens, boom, it can get quickly hijacked and it becomes too common. I feel like that about the word trauma. So there are people now who have seen this treasure chest of like, oh my gosh, there might be something there. And there's other people who don't do the work and they use the word, that's my trauma, that's my trauma. What are the dangers? Let's talk to the genuine people who have been listening. Maybe there's a bunch of things they're reading and they're like, I might have some trauma.
Sure.
And they've never acknowledged it.
Yeah.
What are the dangers of allowing unchecked trauma to just sit in your soul? What happens to your body? What happens to your brain?
It's, you know, trauma is spiritual, emotional, mental, physical. And I need people to recognize we are embodied creatures. And so when we were created and the breath of life got breathed into us in Genesis chapter 1, it actually says this in 2, but anyway, and man became a living soul. We're an embodied case. Everything's happening in this body. And trauma just shakes everything inside there. So spiritually, its effect is on our belief systems. And when I say spiritual, not religious, I'm saying spirit. Spirit is truth, what you embrace as truth. Spirit is the seeds, all the seeds in the garden. It's the seed bank. It's our beliefs, everything we believe, whether it's I believe God is good or I believe I'm a good singer. Everything we believe together forms our spiritual well-being. And so trauma changes what we believe about God, about ourselves, about other people, about how the world works, about relationships. And so sometimes when people are like, have I experienced a trauma? I'll say one way you can look for it is that if you have a before and after moment in your life where your belief about yourself, God, the world, other people, relationships changed for the worse, for good, you may have found a trauma in your life because trauma does that. It shakes our framework of how we understand the world. It challenges meaning. What did this mean? I thought this meant this, and now it doesn't. I thought it meant if you do this, you get this, and that didn't happen.
Right.
I thought it meant I was safe. I wasn't. I thought, so when those belief systems, I thought God was good.
Right.
Evidence is telling me he isn't. And I need to somehow reconstruct that. And the gap between those things is one of the things about trauma, symptoms of trauma, and what it does to our beliefs. And that's the spiritual impact.
Ooh. So to pretend it doesn't impact you would be what?
Crazy.
Crazy. Okay.
Right. But
So-
it's hard to do that because in order to, we have to admit that we are able to be damaged. The vulnerability there that, yes, something that happened to me 40 years ago is still affecting me is like distressing, right? It can make you feel powerless,
Yes.
so you'd rather write a different story.
Right.
And especially the traumas that shape us as children, the things that write in the cement when it's still wet. It's hard.
When your beliefs are being built too at that little
Yes.
age.
The cement is wet. The things that get written in cement when it's wet, you know what it takes to change that cement. You know what it takes to jackhammer that up. And it just makes so much sense, and you don't have much memory before that.
Right.
So it's normal to you, and you don't realize that it may be different for other people. So spiritually, emotionally, trauma affects us in our bodies because emotions are bodily experiences. And trauma alters the way that our autonomic nervous system processes things. Our autonomic nervous system runs automatically without your conscious volitional control. And so we change how our emotional experiences react. We can have lower stress tolerance. So things that other people can quote unquote handle might hurt us sooner. We may fall apart sooner. And then we don't like that. So we just want to try harder and we want to hide that. But trauma affects where we are emotionally. It affects our thoughts, right? This is garden stuff. It affects the seeds. It affects the heart, which is the soil. It affects what now grows.
My gosh.
Which seeds open up and which seeds stay dormant.
Yep.
And then what comes out of the plant, the fruit. So it affects our behavior, but it also affects our physical health, our immune system,
Right.
our sickness, like how quick we get sick. Trauma just absolutely changes everything. It's an earthquake in the garden of our
It's
life.
a terror.
And it terrorizes us.
Let me ask you this. So, like, for instance, in you as a highly trained therapist, this is just an idea and a thought. So this isn't you giving a direct diagnosis, but we're aware of a situation where a friend of ours, horrifically abused, just now coming to grips with, I got trauma. And there is I'm going to ask you in a second, what's that next step? But like, they are not understanding, if you are tied up and you are put in a closet for 2 days, and then someone comes in there and punches you in your face, and then they come back 2 days later and throw water at you, and they let you out, put you back in there, and they punch you in your face again. And then you grow up and you live an okay life, and you're like, I think I'm okay. I just got some issues. What would you say to a person like that? Like, do you understand? Yes, you are a miracle that you are functioning, but to never have sat in front of another human being and even mention this, what kind of damage, what kind of filter has been created, what kind of prison? Because I know that's one situation, but there would be a lot of people who are sitting here listening going, I got some shadow skeletons like that, but I'm okay, I think. What might they not know?
Sheesh. They might not know how much joy is available that has not been experienced yet. There's so much good stuff out here that is available that's not been experienced yet. But when you've had, especially those kinds of extreme experiences, you are doing good by all intents and purposes, right?
Sure.
But what I want to know is what happens in your scary, quiet moments. You know what I mean? Like that
trying to
nightmare that
sleep,
still
yeah.
comes, that nightmare that still comes, that
Yeah.
flashback that still comes, the relational restriction
Yeah.
that you're living in, because we have to make
Yeah.
our lives, we have to draw these tiny boxes around our life where in which we
Yes.
can actually function when there's been that much pain.
Yeah.
And because we barely can do that, even though it feels like we're doing it well, but if something feels like it's threatening that, we'll just make the space smaller.
Right.
Oh,
So we
yeah.
live in this constricted space, and it's like, I'm fine right in here, and why would I knock this wall out and let chaos in when I managed to get to this space?
Okay.
And so they end up living very often a much more constricted life than necessary, especially relationally. So they're
Relationally.
succeeding, but they're doing so many more things alone.
And you thought you were bad, and you're just a default, like by default, a bad person. You got bad, but really, what if there is something in there that can get repaired and healed?
Always,
What
always.
if there is?
Listen,
Yeah.
that Tupperware bowl is still good.
Ooh, I
Yeah.
like that.
You know that Tupperware bowl that's in the back of the, you know.
I throw 'em out.
We're old enough to know the word
Yeah,
Tupperware,
Tupperware.
right?
You keep tuna in that Tupperware for 3 weeks in
You
your
know,
trunk,
and it's like,
you're gonna throw the whole thing
you
out.
think you're like, I'm just gonna toss the whole thing. And some of us have so many bowls like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, that's rotten, that's moldy, just leave it in the back. And
Yeah.
then if I go as a therapist, I'm like, well, let's clean out the fridge. I feel like use that as a therapy
like that.
example a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I don't even, just throw
Don't
the whole
open
thing
it,
out.
yeah.
I say, no, we can actually, this is a high quality bowl. This is a glass Tupperware bowl. This is the real deal. This isn't the disposable stuff. We can save this. We can
Wow.
open it up. We can take the yucky stuff out. We can clean this. We can save this. We don't need to, this is still good. These parts of you are still good. Your capacity for friendship, for love, for work, for joy, still good. Still good. We can still use this. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
great
Wow.
stuff. Don't throw out pieces of yourself and just give up on that
Yeah.
because these other things are working. Like, it's totally worth clearing out these things. They're very valuable things. But I get it when you haven't had that experience. And so someone may not want to talk about all their traumatic experiences, but you know, is there an area of your life where you would like to see or experience things differently? Let's just start there.
Beautiful question.
Let's just start
Is
there.
there
That's
an
a great
area of
question.
your life that you would like more freedom, more
Yeah.
joy, more peace?
Let's just start there.
Let's talk about it.
And if not, then fine. I'm not here to try to force anybody to do anything.
Can you give me your definition of trauma?
Yes, a trauma is an experience that you've had or an environment that you've lived in for a long time that overwhelmed your body's ability to cope. So your body had to change. Your nervous system had to change to survive the event or the series of events or the environment that was put so much stress on you that it overwhelmed your capacity to cope. And trauma bringing us kind of that classic PTSD, like
Yeah.
these things happened to me. But then we have what we call a complex PTSD, a different kind of trauma. Sometimes we call it a developmental trauma, where it's about what did not happen for me. What did not happen for me, the safety that did not happen for me,
That's
the
important.
parental attention
Yeah.
that did not happen for me, the unconditional love that did not happen for me.
So it might not be something that happened, but it happened. So like a trauma would be I waited for my dad to pick me up at school and he never came.
Year after year after year. Now, if it happened once,
right,
he
right.
never came and I never saw him again,
Right.
that's an event.
But if it was a constant thing,
I don't know when he's going to be here, not be here, dependable, not dependable. That's
trauma. So
that's
to the person who
trauma.
says, suck it up, people have had it worse.
They have had it worse,
That's
but it's
not
not
trauma.
about them. It's about you. They have had it worse. And kids are starving in China. That's what they used to tell us
Yep.
when we were
Right.
kids. You know,
Yep.
I don't know. Yes,
That
the
still
statistics
exists.
on that.
That still exists.
Yes,
People like
but
that are still out there.
It didn't
Yeah.
make me want to eat that broccoli anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
This broccoli was still disgusting.
Yeah.
I don't care how many kids are starving in another country. It's not about that. So we are allowed to be in pain for what happened to me,
Yeah.
and to also still care about other people's pain. But I'm allowed to hurt.
Yeah.
Okay, I fell and skinned my knee. My mom never said don't cry because I know a kid who broke their leg. Okay, but this still hurt me. You know.
I
and
have a
so it's
disdain
okay.
for trauma judges.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we judge ourselves.
Yeah, I don't think that we're in a place to judge that, especially with other people.
We
like,
judge
well,
ourselves.
you can't put that on your trauma.
Yeah.
I don't think trauma should ever be used as an excuse at all. And I think that it has a huge part to play in a lot of people's lives.
Where's the human always? I mean, as a therapist, I'm always challenging myself. When I hear even the most extreme stories, I'm always challenging myself. Like, if the phone call came in for you to, hey, this person would love to meet with you, work with you, could you do it well? I need that answer to always be yes. This is one of the ways that I continually am in my process of unconditional
That's
love,
tough.
of who God is, of what I believe about humans. Because a lot of times we're not as clear what our fundamental beliefs are about human beings. Like, I'm always would I be able to make space for this?
That type of person.
Yes.
That
And
type of
in the
thing.
therapy world, we all have I work with this population, and then there's other people who are like, I could never do that. And then I can't do what you would do, and you can't do what I do. But I'm always challenging myself continually. What part of me would go like this? What would keep me from walking in that room just completely wide open? God is deeply in love with every human, and that never ceases to blow my mind. So I feel like one of the things that's important for my character development is to be just ever inching closer to that. I'll never be God, but somehow God is deeply in love with every single person, and I want to be able to sit with every human.
Anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And feel love
And feel
coming
love.
off my pores. Like, I want to be able to do it. If I get in the room and that goes away, I want to know why. Why did it go away? And what in me needs to be crucified?
I've always loved, Anita, the picture of Jesus with lepers, because we think that's a sweet, visual, but I know it's layered.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I don't think that necessarily the point of those examples are to hang out with people with really hard to be around skin conditions. I think leprosy represents the thing that you would never want to be around. And there's just a lot of evidence that those are the things that Jesus ran towards.
Yeah.
And that always gets me to this day.
I love that example. I've never thought about it that way, but why was leprosy so shunned? Not just because it looked bad or smelled
You
bad.
could get it,
It
too.
was highly
You could get it.
contagious.
Wow.
Yes.
It was highly contagious. And I love that you brought that up, because there's so many things that we fear are contagious that actually aren't. But this idea of high contagion, like if I'm near them,
Right.
it's gonna get on me.
Yeah.
But Jesus didn't fear the contagion. He wasn't afraid of it. That goes back to the fear thing.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm not about to be affected by this. It won't
Yeah.
actually affect me, so
Right.
I can be in the presence of whatever you're suffering with.
Yeah.
And it doesn't reflect on me, it doesn't say anything, it's not gonna get on me. Like,
Right.
he was like, I am healing. Like,
Yeah.
I cannot be changed
Yeah.
by the presence of this thing. He didn't have fear of it. And so that's like, fear is everything. I feel like I'm not even explaining it clearly.
You are.
Of how I feel about it, but
Your
it's like,
unclear thought is clearer
Yeah,
than
seriously,
the layman's
I'm like,
regular
wow.
thought.
I'm like, where's the
so
clarity?
good.
But like, let's say I have a really close friend, and I used to have, my standards for relationships used to be too high. In friendships, I'm a super loyal person. Like, I have a certain loyalty thing, but I could be demanding too. So it's like, if they fall below like this bar, it's like, forget it, you're cut off. Like, you failed me, And I've started noticing, like, my mid-30s, I'm like, my friend circle's getting pretty sparse in these streets,
Right.
And it's like, maybe you're asking for like superhuman demands from people. But I just think about, like, what is it that it says to me that about someone maybe letting me down, or if I tell someone a secret and then they tell someone else my secret, and I just started asking myself, like, what am I afraid of? Why do I need people to perform at this level? Like, why do I need that? And why am I having such a strong reaction? Because it feels a little bit out of proportion. And really, it came down to fear. Like, what if I tell someone a secret and then they tell someone else? Like, that would scare me. Why? Because I'd be embarrassed, because I'd be this or that. I was like, what if I just didn't have a secret? What if I just worked on not
good.
But that's
being-
you first.
Right,
That's
you
it's
first.
just-
What if
Yeah.
I wasn't afraid for somebody to know that I was sexually abused or raped at 14? What if I was afraid
Powerful.
for people to know that I was like, I don't love the word promiscuous, but I had a lot of sex when I was younger. Like, what if I wasn't afraid for people to know? Then I wouldn't have a secret that I need to demand you to keep, and then I
Yeah.
wouldn't need you to be perfect and not fail me. And then if some, and you know what I mean? And so what if I did share something that maybe I wasn't ready for the whole world to hear, but then you shared it, like, I don't have to be, man, like, what happened? Why was that? Like, did you just forget that I asked you not to? Or were you thinking, like, it doesn't have to automatically be
Deal breaker.
me having a maniac breakdown. Like, if I wasn't scared, this world would be so, like, I would experience the world so differently.
Here's an
good. Wow.
an annoyance from Anita. So I'm having a new file of things that you spark in me that annoy me. So we're having a great combo yesterday about strengths, about where you see strengths and weaknesses, and I watched you do this masterful exercise, and it dawned on me. You know, what I tell myself is one of my highest values is loyalty. Very similar to what you said, and I consider myself a loyal friend. I love other loyal people. And then when I go you first, I actually have a lot of evidence that would tell me I have been severely disloyal.
Yeah,
So here I am, grievously offended
right.
at what I have perceived as disloyal people. And then I have that quick glance in the mirror. Did anybody else in this room break their vows? Oh, that was me.
Listen.
The highest level of loyalty, I absolutely devoured. It's gone. And yet I'm still like, yeah, but loyalty is my thing. And it's just a very funny thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes the thing that you're the most passionate about, you might want to look
Listen.
under the hood of that and go, I'm the most loyal friend in the world.
Yes.
I do think I am loyal. I do think I'm a good friend, but I don't phrase it the same way anymore because I do value loyalty, but I need to prove it to myself that I do.
Listen.
Because I am there for you, and I am loyal, and I will get on a plane,
Except-
and I will fight for you in a back alley, and I broke my marriage vows.
Like I said a little while ago, there's some stuff I want under the blood forever.
What is this, Anita?
And that's why I started getting into. I think was this loyalty demand is really about me being afraid. I want to not be surprised or blindsided.
Yes.
Because I'm afraid that if I don't know everything, I can't control certain things, and I don't. And it sounds like loyalty, but yeah,
I'm afraid to lose people.
I'm afraid.
So I've told myself my whole life that I am loyal and I am this. If I dig a little bit, I'm really scared
Just
that I
really
might not
scared.
have the people that I really love in my life. And that takes a lot of work to get to a place where you realize that. So now
Yeah.
I stand here and I go, my pursuit is to be a loyal man.
Yeah.
My pursuit and my journey is to be the most trustworthy person I can be. It's no longer, I'm loyal.
But I'm pursuing this.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh, I'm pursuing it. And so
Listen,
what I
I
have
love
found
that.
in
That's
my
good.
Anita Annoyance, which is a tougher book to sell, it makes me go, anything I think I'm super passionate about, let me just check under that thing and see what's in there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm super passionate about seeing people get saved. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Might you also be a little bit worried that you might be the only one hanging out with this belief system? And because I look back on even some of I was talking to one of my friends who helped me as an early Christian, and he was like, man, you brought in droves of people. I was like, yeah, but my motive was if I can't drink, nobody's drinking. If I can't be sleeping around, none of y'all are. So this is who Jesus is. This is how you need to lay your life down. And if you don't, you're going to go to hell. Who's coming to church?
Who's coming
Everybody.
with me? Who's coming with me?
My motive was not that I love Jesus. No, it was like, no, as far as I know right now, I'm not going to be the only one in this church. So I'm bringing everybody. But it takes work to be able to start to see things like that. And it makes life better.
It does.
It really does.
But in there, this is one of the beautiful things about God and self-awareness is that he wants to sanctify the thing. That so much of sanctification and spiritual maturity is about allowing God to show you and use your powers for good. And so, yeah, that thing sanctified and resurrected
There you go.
is soul winning craziness,
There you go.
right? And
Yeah.
so one of my favorite things to ask people, many of you have heard me say this before, is what's your favorite scripture, right? Because favorite
You do
scripture,
love that question, yeah.
love it.
It does reveal a lot.
It reveals a lot, but it
Yeah.
reveals like both the dark and light side of things, you know? So my favorite verse being, no man take my life, I lay it down. I have the power to lay it down, the power to pick it up again. Like unsanctified, raw Anita personality. No man takes my life, baby. I lay it down. I have the power to lay it down, and I have the power to pick it up. So don't come for me. I do what I want. I say what I say. Like, that was attractive to me not realizing that, like, when God finished with me, I just lay it down. Like I get to follow Jesus in laying it down. Like, it just became a whole different thing. It's still my favorite verse. But this is the resurrected version.
Laura has a much more beautiful, pure brain than I do, so I don't think her verse works here. Mine does. So my favorite verse is Ephesians 3:20. Awesome, awesome, awesome. My whole life, scripted by that thing. And there's something in me that likes the thought of me not having to plan anything because God's going to do it.
Quote
And if
Ephesians
I-
3:20 for the
and-
people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ephesians
Now,
3:20. God is able
To
to
do
do exceedingly abundantly and above all you
Yes.
could ever ask, imagine, or dream, according to his power at work to us, to
Yep.
him the glory. Amen. Awesome. And for a guy who hates to plan, and I hate putting a goal up there in case I don't get it, I got a great convenient out. Oh, y'all got goals? I got a better one. Ephesians 3:20. God is able. So you can take your goals and you can take your vision statement and you can take your cute
God's
little
gonna
ideas
do
because
more.
God is going to do more. And I'm desperately afraid of failing. Ooh, it
Yes.
just is worth a look. And it's still my favorite verse.
Yeah.
I'm still really glad that God is able to do more. And I'm less afraid to also throw a goal or two out there.
Yeah.
Because what if I do fail? I don't care. That's the journey.
Yeah.
So I think this is only a journey for people who are willing to do a little bit of work. Because it's such a
Absolutely.
simple thing. What's your favorite? Psalm 23, God's my shepherd.
Right.
Okay, cool, man. Like, do you want to dig a little bit? Your favorite verse is about God creating you before
Psalm 139.
you even had a choice.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can therapize that to find a weakness in it, and that annoys
in
me.
your mother's womb,
He knew
he
you.
knew me.
He knew you.
And now you just had this incredible journey of rediscovering who that was.
Yeah, that's
That
true.
verse was always for you. That verse was always for
Ooh,
you.
which-
You just
which-
said, I found my voice.
Which
I found
explains
this
some
thing.
of your wounds.
Yeah.
Because if that's your verse, that's your hallmark, and then you lost some of that.
Oh, I did.
I thought you knew me. I thought you had me covered. You knew me
Wow.
before
And
I
also,
was.
who am I?
Yeah.
Both of our favorite verses suck.
Yeah, listen.
Our filter does. Let's change it.
Listen, no, I love that.
Wow.
I mean, before it's
never
like
thought of
this
that.
this idea that you were somebody from the beginning and known and seen.
And explains a lot of my
Wow.
mindset battles because if Ephesians 3:20, God is able, then why on earth, if you're able, you can't arrest me at 23 and whisper in my ear about my trauma that I'm not aware of and spare me all this effing humiliating pain. And then you just start to peel all the layers back. And that's someone said, what's it like doing self-work? I said, just get yourself an onion, sit there in the kitchen and peel it till it's done being peeled.
Yeah.
It takes a while. That's the beauty. To me, I look at it like unwrapping a present now.
Yeah. And then builds back out.
Mm.
You know, I like the Russian doll.
Yes.
You open and there's another one, and there's
Another
another
one,
another one. But finally we get to the center. And then we
Build it back up.
Yeah. There's a whole nother thing because it's like, here's the core of me. Here's the me formed in the womb. Here's the thing. And all of these things happened. And I put on this and I put on that and I put on this and someone put this on me and so then we get all the way back down. But now what? We get to build something new from there, you know? And so.
Okay, let me do, what's our time at?
Yep.
You're at hour 15.
Lord Jesus.
Jeez.
Perfect.
That was
Okay.
a blink.
Yes.
Right?
But
Good
That's
combos will
crazy.
do that.
Yeah.
Couple more quick things. Let me get my bang for the buck. Also known as sitting with a genius. So if we go to the left for a second, we talk about something as simple as procrastination. I hear from a lot of people who struggle with this. It's still a fight for me that I am in like round 7. found out through some of my work that procrastination is often linked to trauma, fear, and you push off the things that you value the most. So for me, it looked like, especially when I was in the throes of just the consequence of my sin pre-exposure, the things I procrastinated with became extreme. So if sermon writing, which I didn't get until after the fact, I would think about it all week, put it off. Saturday night, 11 o'clock till 2 a.m., sleep for 3 hours, memorize it, preach it 7 times. Come to find out, of course I was pushing that off because there was something in there that represented duality, represented embarrassment, humiliation, like I'm not worthy of it. What can we do about procrastinating? Because there's a lot of people who are like, man, I hate the fact that I procrastinate, but not a lot of people have answers.
Yeah, and I'm not innocent of the procrastination, let me tell you. And it can get worse. Well, and first of all, I want people to know some of us just aren't neurotypical. So there are some issues. Some of us are not neurotypical. I have attention deficit disorder. I'm hanging off the edge of the spectrum myself. My brain works differently. I have sensory integration issues, light, sound. Like there's a whole lot of different things that are going on. So not everybody works the same way.
Right.
And I want that to be okay. Not everybody works the same way. Some of us are just better on our feet. Some of us are like sit down, plan, construct. And that's okay. So, but if we hit a point where
it's harming your life.
It's harming. It's becoming dysfunctional, right? Then yes, we want to find out. The question is always, what feeling is happening here? That's where I like to start. So if there's something that's like, I'm putting off this thing, the idea, like if I were to sit down and work on this right this minute and I just sat here, what emotions come up? What about this either scares me, frustrates me, makes me uncomfortable, makes me worry that I'm not going to do it perfect? Like, get to the feelings. Why does this scare me in particular? What am I scared of about this,
And get
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
helpful. I mean, right away, and there's positive procrastination I've employed, meaning I no longer check my text past a certain point because I know whatever's in there, I don't want to, good or bad, I don't want to handle it.
Yeah.
That's a safety
right.
But there's other times where I've avoided certain things because I'm afraid that it's going to be bad news.
Yes.
I'm afraid it's going to mean it's going to take my next 2 hours of mental space. Or
it's
so there's markers and identifiers in there that can really help us.
Always go to the feelings. We do a lot of mind stuff, thought stuff, thought stuff. And even when that stuff works, you've dealt with the emotion without realizing it. Or it didn't work, it just worked temporarily. And then those thoughts are back, those things are back. Because how does this make me feel? Why am I afraid of this? And if you have that moment, it's like, okay, well, I don't want to know this because there might be bad news in there. And then the Christian response can be like, well, just believe there's good news. And it's just like, how about you just sit there and say, but I've learned that no matter what comes, God keeps always showing up for me.
I'm going to handle it like this.
I'm going to remind myself the safest place in the world for me is God's love. God loves me. So if there's something coming, He got me because he loves me.
Yeah.
What if I just wasn't scared? This is a massive concept.
Wow.
Really
what if I
is.
dug into what scares me about that? Yeah, it's a big part of what messes it up, makes it hard for us to make hard decisions. Well, I'm scared. Scared. I'm trying to make a decision that's going to protect me from what I'm afraid of. What if I just wasn't scared? What if I lived, fear-free? One on my list of things that were kind of scary to me when at the prospect of like, oh man, I'm not married anymore. Like, I was married for a really long time, almost 27 years. And so it was like just how the world would be different. And one of the things that came up for me was like, what if I get sick? It was just like a random thing. And you're just like by yourself. Like, I'm not used to that part. And I'm a pretty like independent person, but that was one of the things that came up. And I'd say just a few months, just like several months after my divorce was final, I was living by myself. I was traveling to minister, and I was doing this this retreat, and I did it 2 weeks in a row, so there was a weekend in between the retreat. And I caught the worst flu. Like, it was terrible. And I was sitting in a train station in D.C. trying to take the train from having preached in D.C. to New York to visit my son, and then back to D.C. to go back to South Carolina to do the second retreat. And I'm in the train station so sick, I had to call it. I was like, I can't even get on the train. Yeah. So I got to an airport. I flew back to South Carolina because I had to do a retreat there next week. And my two friends were there who were running the retreat, and they just tucked me in bed in their Airbnb for the whole week. And they brought me tea, and they brought me peppermint stuff, and they put blankets on me, and they prayed for me, and they just took care of me. And I laid in that bed and just cried, not because it was because I was like, God, you knew that this is one of the things that felt scary for me in this different life. And the first time I got really sick, you made sure I was with my friends.
I love that. Wow.
And it was just like, he loves me so much. He wanted to show me that my imagination was silly. Why did I need to be afraid if I have this God who takes care of me?
Wow.
I don't actually need to be scared of that. So now it's like, I didn't need to be scared. So now I'm like, okay, I don't need to be scared of that anymore because he showed me I didn't need to. The different ways that God delivers us from fear, sometimes he will walk you through the thing that scares you and show you that he's with you. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, he will actually let you walk through it. Sometimes he will just change your heart about it. So there was other times like I was scared to, I never wanted to have to start a church from scratch. I'm a pastor's kid. I figured there was a good chance that at some point in my life I would also be a pastor, and I was like, fine, I'm not even going to argue with you about that.
Yeah, right.
But if we're going to do it,
Yeah.
please don't make me have to be a part of starting a church from scratch. That just seemed like,
Let me
I wanted
catch a beautiful handoff.
Right.
Buildings paid for.
right,
solid
exactly,
staff.
exactly. I was like,
Sarasota,
I should
Florida
get a
would be
transfer
nice.
credit.
Yeah.
Don't have to start. My parents were pastors. When my dad started pastoring, there was like 4 members. I felt like we really were a part of that.
Yeah.
And so there was a time where it seemed that God was actually asking to start a church from scratch. And I went to God and was like, you know what, God, I love you so much. Fix my heart. I'm going to go ahead and trust you. Like, I just worked it out to the point where I not only accepted the idea of it, but got excited about it. And as soon as I got excited about the prospect of starting a church from scratch, the script flipped and found ourselves leading a church that was well established. So in that case, God didn't ask me to actually walk it out, but just it was the willingness that he wanted.
Yeah.
You know, so he's going to get you out of fear, sometimes by walking through it, sometimes by just changing you internally, sometimes by maybe walking with somebody else and seeing that it's not. But he's always trying to replace fear with love. And so now anytime that I'm like, something
really
is scaring me, I can't necessarily immediately get myself out of it, but the way that I get out of it eventually is through his love. Somehow I'm going to remember what he's done for me before, what I've seen him do for other people, what his word says, how he's made me feel so many times. His love is the safest place on earth.
So you do you find it hard to teach people how to fight fear who don't have a faith that you share?
That's a great question. I got to think about that. I do have clients who don't share my faith in terms of religion. But I still always am challenging people to tap into what exists in the invisible space and to identify themes in their life that have suggested that fear will not produce what they want it to produce.
That's good.
I encourage them to get into spaces where they feel loved because safety's there. I encourage them to get into the space of the things they love about themselves because safety's there. So in some ways, I guess I'm always still doing the same thing because God is love.
Yeah.
And anytime I can get someone closer to love, I am getting them closer to God. And one of the things, if you want to make me angry, like minimize love. That'll tick me off. Make it sound like love is weak. That will tick me off. Oh, just love. No, love is everything.
Yeah.
It is the source of everything. If I get them closer to love, I've gotten them closer to God.
Beautifully said.
And I let him take them the rest of the way.
That's been a huge weight that I let go of, and I picked up a lighter burden.
Yeah.
And because the truth is, I've seen a lot of ways to think, and I've seen a lot of healthy ways to live. And I'll be honest with people that I work with. I'll say, hey, at the end of the day, I can teach you some really effective concepts. And I can point you to the best therapist in the world. They will help. And after all the work I've done previously and now, I do come back to the same anchor, though. So that's a journey you have to face. I will do my best on this road because there's so many great concepts.
Yeah.
But at some point, everybody, what I love about one of the recovery meetings I'm in, we always say the serenity prayer at the end. Mm-hmm. And they open it up for everybody to just be included. And so for me, it's, dear Jesus. And
Mm-hmm.
one of my friends always like, dear universe.
Uh-huh.
Another friend's like, dear something. And I don't judge it. I just, every time I'm going, that's something. And then we have these conversations. It's like, hey, if you want to explore that, because at the end of the day, those prayers force you to look at what are you, at the end of the day, what's your concept leading towards?
Yes.
I'm not going to beat you over the head with my Bible. I will say every concept has failed me at some point.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I've hung on to, because people have said, where's y'all's faith? And I've always said, like, my faith actually has been pretty strong, because the only thing that didn't fail was Jesus. I failed my wife.
Right.
I failed my church. I failed my friends. Jesus is involved
Jesus
in my
is
failure.
steady Eddie.
How are you not mad at God? Mad at God?
Listen,
Do you know how many times God showed up in a burning bush moment of various degrees of saying, hey, change your ways? And God's the last person on my mad list.
I hear that.
But yeah, so I think that I was curious because of your brilliance, where that leads you. Let me ask you this, and I will slowly, we will let you leave,
I don't have
sadly.
to be afraid of people calling God
Me neither.
other names.
You're going to get there.
And
Just
I am not his defense attorney.
get on
Right.
the road of exploration. You're going to find truth.
If I
Yeah.
be lifted up, I will draw them.
Great.
I just
Got nothing to
Yeah.
do with that. Yeah.
live it,
Yeah.
write it. Like you read The Garden Within, that is a presentation
Right.
of how I have known the Creator.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to share it with people.
I mean, Anita, I've
that's
described
it.
your book to people like, yeah, it's brilliant. It's incredible. I mean, she's a Christian.
Oh, I'm a
And-
Jesus chick.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, that's not a barrier for people. That's why that book matters so much, because it's not a deal breaker. It's actually a gateway to a brand new life that people can explore. And I am a proponent of that. I love it. I think that it's special. It's why I experience you as fierce and dynamic. So when I hear you talk about fear, it's so encouraging for people because I'm sure other people are like, that fear. And
Listen,
Dr.
we all,
Anita has fear. It's like, of course you do, but
Yeah.
I like hearing brave people talk about the things that they will battle. And your voice matters that much
Thank
to
you.
culture now and forever. And let me ask you this one thing. It's 7:15.
It's
We can
7:15.
edit that one moment.
Hilarious.
Dealing with people. I didn't even want to do that. I don't want to go there.
Okay.
It's not gonna.
Next conversation. We'll talk again.
Let's do this. There's somebody listening.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great people who are on the threshold of getting help that's going to change their life. Maybe they're not ready to go see a therapist. Maybe they can afford a therapist. Maybe they're in their car right now and they drive a truck and they are listening to a podcast. Like, I got some stuff I could work on. What are we telling people today who are a little bit bashful about maybe being open about the stuff they're discovering, but where do you begin this journey of healing? So you've never been to therapy. You've never told somebody about your trauma. You've been trying to carry this by yourself, and you just found out you might be lovingly silly to try to pull that off. And I want to, like, what's a good place to start somebody on this journey of the work that you and I know means a lot, but where do we go for genuine people who are ready?
Start speaking the truth out loud. First to yourself. It's amazing to hear your own voice say, that hurt me. It makes sense that I'm in pain. And I want something different.
Give me 5 pieces of truth. Because the first question a smart person is going to say is, okay, but I'm in hook, line, and sinker, so the truth that I might have been telling myself is actually not true. Can you give me 5 quick ideas of things people can say that's true and it might rage against their old system, their
Mm-hmm.
old internal dialogue. Anything that pops in your head.
It is possible and likely that the thing that hurt me most when I was young is still affecting me now.
Truth number one.
I am one of many, so it will not surprise people
Truth number
that
two.
I have pain.
Powerful.
Number 3, somebody does care, and I'll keep talking till I find them. Someone will care about my story. And that could be a therapist, but it could also be a friend, a stranger, a support group member, a church person,
Somebody
Somebody
definitely
will care
cares.
about this.
Number 4.
the person who cares wants to hear it. Everybody's got their own problems. Nobody wants to hear this. Somebody cares. Number 4, somebody wants to listen.
Beautiful.
And number 5, relationships broke me, but relationships can heal me.
If somebody takes those 5 things and says them every day out loud, it is the beginning of a new chapter of life. I will add 6 because it's my podcast.
Ha!
You are worthy of love,
Yes.
and you are worthy of a life that is fulfilling and peaceful.
And not only are you worthy of love, you are loved right now. You already have it. It's already available to you.
Number 7, you're loved
Yes.
right now.
You're loved right now.
That's the number of completion. We're going to stop at 5, which
love
is
it.
grace. 6, not aware of. 7,
6 not aware of.
You're loved.
Anita, I feel it. I know that somebody listening desperately needs this. We all need it.
Me too.
And we are going to be praying for you, and so excited for people to experience this beautiful gift that you are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And keep doing your thing your way.
Mm.
You are one of one, and it's just getting started.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you do.
I will do that.
Lawsy Bell,
Thank you. Love you.
Oh, love you
Oh
both.
my gosh.
Love you
That was
both.
amazing.
lights on, lights off.
Lights off.